Are you kidding me? Let's do this. I have had an absolute enough. It's time I sorted you out. Nope, I'm not dealing with this. I'm done. I'm getting my bag over my shoulder. I'm out of here. Bye. Welcome to my discussion on fight or flight. What can you learn from your fight or flight reaction? Your fight or flight reaction is a really interesting part of the human emotion. It comes from the amygdala in the brain, and it's instinctive, and normally, depending on the situation, one of us tend to go more one way than the other. We tend to either be fighters or we tend to either be flighters. When you look at the history of situations that become difficult, they're intense, there may be pending conflict, or we have to face something or talk about something really hard, we will either fight or we're out of there. We're flying. We're leaving. Bye. See you, Felicia. Each fight or flight moment can teach us something about our reactions and teach us something about ourselves. So it's really important to actually sit down afterwards, after you perhaps have the time to have reflection on your fight or flight function, and figure out why you reacted that way and why instinctively your body and your adrenaline and your cortisol levels rose and made you do one or the other. You either stayed and put your fist up or you took off. You see this in a lot of relationships in particular. When I do couples or I do with individuals that are having relationship difficulties, or they perhaps have found themselves in relationships that don't work out, often during the holistic counselling sessions we talk about the fight or flight reactions within the relationship. What it can tell you is when you do have a big fight response, or when you do have a big flight runaway response, is that you don't have enough toolkits emotionally, or you're not centered enough to be able to process or deal with that situation. And it's not something you can fix overnight. You can't just flick on your fight or flick off your flight. You need to develop some tools, and you need to know how to negotiate, how to communicate, how to take some time out calmly, how to walk away peacefully, how to restore and do restorative practice in situations. There are many techniques and strategies and tools that you can have in your toolkit that can probably minimise your fight or flight response. And I can hear you all saying, Sharon, it's our emotions. How the hell are we supposed to go into our little toolkit when we're ready to fight or just flight? That's the thing. At the moment, you've got no toolkit. You've got no toolkit. You can't even stop and think. It's practice. It's a lot of practice. With me, we'll talk about the scenarios and we'll talk about the role playing, and perhaps we'll look at exactly what you could have done and what your options were when we reflect upon the fight or flight situations. Or you could just journal yourself about your fight or flight reactions and consider what alternatives you perhaps could have taken. It's about reflection, it's about learning, and it's also about developing a new set of skills so that when your emotions start to peak and you start to go right up into that red zone, let's try not to get to the red zone. Let's have some tools in the first place to at least keep your fight or flight function at a minimum. But you're saying, why? What's wrong with my fight or flight? Doesn't give you time to think. It doesn't give you time to process. And if you can tell me you've made good decisions out of fight or flight, I guess I better eat my words. It's a normal part of the human brain. It is a chemical response. Understand that. But also understand that I can teach you, and even other healers can teach you, if they're holistic counsellors like myself, a set of skills to teach you to cope and to manage through those situations and manage those emotions before they get to the point where you get to fight or flight, we can learn from fight or flight about you and give you an ability to process life and process conflict and process people and process places with a lot more ease, so that you don't have such a dramatic response and so that your body doesn't endure that stress.